guys, this is Milghouse1349 bringing you today the Omega Constellation GlobeMaster in two-tone steel and Sedna gold. Bringing you this in a new format. So if you're just here for the shorthand, what I like about it are the vintage cues, the high gold content, the caliber 8900 movement, and the satin finish center links. However, issues I had with it are the bracelet is lifted directly from the Aquaterra line. The links are infuriating to size, and the case has a bizarre lug end welded to it that does not work aesthetically with the bracelet. Overall, it is a mid-tier Omega model with noticeable deficiencies that delineate it from being at their 1000+ model range top. So, getting into the details now, what I liked about it, the bezel. The bezel is different from the Datejust. But it's unique in its own way. Watchbox mentions this, right? And you can see here that it's the bezel is much finer than what you find in the Datejust. Next we have is the movement. The caliber 8900 is absolutely phenomenal. Let's take a look at the back here. Absolutely phenomenal, and it's Maytas, despite being machine finished. The Geneva wave finish here is really beautiful and personally holds a special place in my horological journey. Along with that, you see the observatory here in the center. Get a better shot here. There we go. Vintage cues, the observatory and the case back, especially in old gold, where this little medallion is old gold, right? Adds a superlative balance between having that exhibition case back and having a solid case back. The extra metal adds weight, especially in the gold, and more so in the gold. But again, it just strikes a nice balance. It's a nice subtle touch that only you as the owner will realize. Along with that, we have the pie pan dial here, and in this example, the blue dial, it's much more subtle than in the white dial, but again, it's a nice nod or throwback to the original pie pan versions. Again, if that's something that you're into. Gold, you can see there's a ton of gold in this bracelet, right? With enough steel to protect the flanks of the bracelet, and then it adds that extra heft to it, and there's good weight to this. There we go. Finishing, satin finish, right? These satin finished center links don't show wear nearly as much as you would a high polished oyster bracelet, for example, right? And everyone that I've ever shown this to has commented on how that's a nice touch. Strap monster, when you take the bracelet off, this looks phenomenal on blue suede and will eat straps, surprisingly, despite its more dressy nature. And the dial, finally, modern Omega dials tend to use gold parts rather than gold plated or PVD parts, and the dial itself it looks fantastic. It's hard to get in this shot with this lighting. It's just not eating lighting here as well, but there we go. The sunburst is phenomenal, and it just looks great. It's a great dial. So moving along, issues I have with this, the GlobeMaster, the sunburst. It's a small detail, but constellations have historically had the sunburst effect radiate out of this star rather than at the center at the handset. It sounds picky in a small detail, but it's noticeable detail once you see it, and luxury is all about attention to detail, right? Next, lug ends. Between the lug ends, right here, I'm going to zoom in. Right between the lug ends is this faux lug end. I'm going to point to it here, so I don't have a good name for it. This is a solid part of the case. And it might make sense if this was all steel, right? Even though you can see even here on the steel finishing, the finishing of the bracelet doesn't line up with this finishing, right? And doesn't really make sense. Even if this was steel, this really wouldn't line up, just the way it's all cut. And therefore, in the two-tone model, that makes absolutely no sense. I don't know why they did this here, right? Stylistically, I guess on bracelet, it might make, or on bracelet, on strap, it might make sense, right? Because it'll close some of that gap, even though you would still have to put the pins further back. I don't know, right? That's the only thing that makes sense to me, that this was originally designed for strap, and then they lifted a bracelet, which we'll talk about in a minute, for it. Again, it looks great on bracelet, but once you see that, you can't unsee that. It's super frustrating, right, to live with, in my opinion. All right, the bracelet. So the satin finish of the center links, right, may show wear less, but the bracelet is a part spin bracelet, right, taken from the Aquaterra line, right down to the twin trigger butterfly release, right? I say that because you take this and this is lifted right from the Aquaterra line, whereas if you look at the Griffin Claw Constellations, it has a recessed and gold-plated Omega logo right here. Right? So, the clasp, unlike the new 39mm Constellation Griffin Claw, that's just what we're going to refer to that line as, which offers a micro adjust clasp. There's a little button right here. It has a little button right here you press, and it allows this section to go back and forth just a few mil, but it's enough to make a massive difference in your wearability, whereas this doesn't, because this is lifted off of a last gen Aquaterra. Links, these screw links, look, they're screws. They're not actually screws. They are and they aren't, right? So they're a screw on each end, and the center of them is a free-floating pin, right? They have to be the single most infuriating link retention system I have ever encountered, to the point that when I first bought this and went to size it and then decided to put in another half link, I almost lost my mind and almost went to go sell it, because it's absolutely infuriating. And if you don't line up those two screws, you know what happens? They bend the centerpiece, or they'll bend the links altogether, which is absolutely infuriating. Yeah, I don't know what Omega was thinking. Clearly, they maybe never handled an actual screw bar link. Anyways, lug-ins. So, in good swatch greed fashion, none of the lug end links between the Constellations or the Aquaterras that I've owned to date actually are interchangeable. So maybe that's why they have this little bit here. That doesn't make any sense aesthetically, unless, again, you count the strap side. Regardless, right, last point, retail, RRP. All things considered, right, personally, I place the real value of the GlobeMaster at no more than around 11,000 Canadian, right, which subtract 25% for the US dollar by and large. And given the glaring deficiencies, right, from having lived with this for some time now, right, especially when compared to any modern date just, for that matter, a retail of over 17,000 Canadian is absolutely ridiculous. It's just preposterous, right? And again, it seems to be mid-tier. It's ridiculous and absolutely entirely undeserved, right? In every way, and nearly every way, the date just is a far superior product. And it's pretty significant given that this arguably competes directly with it, and you won't find one on the gray market for like 10K, but you will with this. So at the end of the day, while I'm trying to get a good shot of this, which I just can't seem to right now, it's a great value proposition if you're talking gray market, But new, I would struggle to find this competitive compared to a Datejust. So there you have it. Comment below.